Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deepsight. Let's continue to tell you the story of the Renaissance. In the last episode, we talked about how Michelangelo initiated a competition with Leonardo da Vinci to vie for the title of the #1 artist at the pinnacle of art in Florence. So, what was the final result? In 1508, Pope Julius II invited Michelangelo to paint the ceiling fresco of the Sistine Chapel. This task was arduous and demanding. Initially, Michelangelo was reluctant to accept it because he was more passionate about sculpture and considered painting not his forte. However, under the Pope's insistence, he finally took on this heavy responsibility. Michelangelo lay alone on a high scaffold and began a 4-year arduous creation. With the creation of the world as the theme, he painted hundreds of figures on the ceiling, including God, Adam, Eve, Noah, etc. Among them, the creation of Adam, is the most impressive one. In the painting, God, with a robust figure, is surrounded by a group of angels. He stretches out his right hand, and the tip of his finger is about to touch Adam's finger. At this moment, it seems as if the spark of life is about to be bestowed upon Adam. Adam's body reclines slightly, lying on the ground. His eyes are full of anticipation and innocence, as if waiting for God's gift. Through the delicate portrayal of the figure's body language, Michelangelo presented the sacred moment of the birth of life. The entire ceiling fresco is magnificent, full of religious solemnity and sacredness, and has become an immortal masterpiece in the history of world art. Michelangelo didn't like others to see his painting process during creation, which was related to his personality and artistic concept. There are many examples of this trait in his life. He was introverted and independent, with a strong sense of privacy. This led to his great concern for the privacy of his personal creative process. He believed that creation was a profound personal experience, and he didn't want to be disturbed or have his unfinished works evaluated by others. As a perfectionist, he had extremely high requirements for his works and was only willing to show them when he was completely satisfied. Therefore, he didn't want others to see his unfinished works, thinking that it might weaken the final visual impact or make people misunderstand his intentions. His workplace was off limits to others until the work was completed, and no one, including the Pope himself, could know what he was painting. Unlike Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael of the same era, Michelangelo rarely relied on assistants to complete his works. His sculptures and paintings were almost entirely handmade by himself, which made his creative process more lonely and focused. When creating the Sistine ceiling painting, he requested that the Vatican Church be closed to prohibit others from entering, and only a very few necessary people were allowed to assist in preparing materials. Michelangelo was even more reluctant for other artists to imitate his techniques, so he kept his creative process highly confidential. He was worried that his drafts, steps, or unfinished works, if seen by others, would be imitated, thus weakening his unique artistic style. There are rumors that he even destroyed some drafts and sketches after completion to prevent them from being studied or imitated. The creation of the Sistine ceiling painting is a typical example. Despite the huge scale of the creation, Michelangelo insisted on painting most of the images himself. To maintain privacy, he avoided contact with the outside world while working on the scaffold. During this task, Pope Julius once hoped to check the progress of the ceiling painting, but Michelangelo insisted that no one be allowed to enter until he thought it was ready to be shown. Michelangelo regarded art as an expression of inner inspiration. He believed that the work of an artist should be a divine creation rather than a public process. Therefore, his attitude of keeping the creative process confidential was not only a reflection of his personal character, but also a symbol of his profound respect for art. The relationship between Michelangelo and Pope Julius was also very tense. He was dissatisfied with the payment for his creation of the Sistine ceiling fresco. Initially, Michelangelo was not willing to accept the Pope's commission because he didn't want to engage in painting work and preferred sculpture instead. Eventually, Pope Julius persuaded him several times and promised generous payment, which made Michelangelo agree to take on this task. But in fact, the payment he finally received was much lower than he expected. Michelangelo complained that the Pope did not fulfill the payment in a timely manner as agreed, and the amount was not enough to match his efforts for such a huge project. He He felt that his contributions were not proportional to the payment he received, especially considering the years he spent on this arduous work. At the same time, Julius constantly pressured Michelangelo throughout the process, hoping to accelerate the progress and put forward more requirements for the work. Michelangelo believed that he had made great artistic efforts and suffered physical and mental exhaustion, while the Pope seemed not generous enough in handling payment and working conditions. During the long-term creation process, Michelangelo gradually became dissatisfied with the Pope's management methods. Especially regarding payment and other conditions, he showed anger and disappointment towards the Pope on many occasions, and even once wanted to give up the project. Michelangelo expressed his dissatisfaction with the treatment from the Pope and the Church in his diary. Due to Michelangelo's outstanding achievements in the end, the Sistine ceiling painting not only brought him fame but also became an important symbol of his status as an artist. Michelangelo's Sistine ceiling fresco consists of multiple independent scenes, telling a series of Bible stories from the creation of the world to Noah's Ark and then to the Last Judgment. Michelangelo added some symbolic elements to the paintings to show the power and influence of the Pope. For example, the scene of the crucifixion of St. Peter in the fresco is closely related to the authority of Pope Julius, symbolizing the Pope as a religious and political leader. In another masterpiece, The Last Judgment, created by Michelangelo in his later years, the image of Pope Julius is clearly presented. In this work, Michelangelo incorporated the Pope's face into a detail. The Pope's portrait is depicted as a soul being punished in hell. He is portrayed as a naked man in pain and distortion. In his hand, Michelangelo's image became a human skin which was sucked dry by the demon, located in the part of hell, symbolizing the consequences of his actions during his lifetime. This design not only shows Michelangelo's criticism of the Pope, but also reflects the complex relationship between the two. Leonardo da Vinci's most famous work is The Last Supper. At the end of the 15th century, Milan was under the rule of the Sforza family. Society was relatively stable, the economy was prosperous, and art was booming. Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, decided to carry out large-scale renovation and decoration of the Church of Santa Maria de Grazie to demonstrate the glory and piety of the family and commissioned Leonardo da Vinci to create an important mural. Leonardo da Vinci chose the highly religious theme of the Last Supper to show the most crucial moment in the Christian faith. In the religious and cultural background at that time, the story of the Last Supper was well known. It was not only the core event in Christian doctrine, symbolizing Jesus' sacrifice for the redemption of humanity, but also carried the believer's gratitude and awe for God's grace. Leonardo da Vinci hoped to vividly present this sacred and solemn scene to the world through his brushstrokes, evoking the religious emotions deep in people's hearts. In addition, during the Renaissance, humanism was prevalent, emphasizing the attention and respect for people, and the pursuit of the liberation and freedom of human nature. Leonardo da Vinci was deeply influenced by this trend of thought. He tried to break through the rigid patterns of traditional religious paintings in his works, endowing the figures with more real and vivid emotions and personalities, so that viewers could see the joys, sorrows, anger, and pleasures of human beings from these characters and feel the glory and complexity of human nature. The composition and layout of The Last Supper are extremely classic. The picture takes Jesus as the absolute center and unfolds horizontally on both sides, presenting an overall symmetrical composition, giving people a sense of stability and solemnity. The dining table is placed horizontally in the center of the picture. Jesus and the 12 disciples sit in turn. The intervals between the figures are well spaced, ensuring that each character has enough space to be displayed without making the picture look loose or crowded. From the perspective of perspective, Leonardo da Vinci used the method of focal perspective. All the perspective lines converge on Jesus' head, guiding the viewer's line of sight to naturally focus on Jesus, strengthening his central position. At the same time, it also creates a strong sense of spatial depth, as if the viewer is in the room where the supper is being held. The expressions and movements of the characters. When Jesus said, "One of you will betray me," Leonardo da Vinci accurately captured the different reactions of the 12 disciples and vividly presented them through delicate expressions and vivid movements. Judas tightly held the money, a bag with 30 pieces of silver. His body unconsciously shrank back, His face was covered in shadow, and his eyes were full of fear and unease. His elbow accidentally knocked over the salt cellar, hinting at his inner panic and the impending bad luck. St. Peter, sitting on the right hand side of Jesus, was emotionally excited. His body leaned forward, his right hand tightly grasped the table knife, as if ready to immediately expose the traitor. The anger on his face was palpable. In sharp contrast to him was St. John, who looked sad and weakly leaned against Peter, as if unable to bear this cruel fact. The other disciples also showed a variety of expressions such as shock, doubt, anger, and sadness. Through their gestures and postures, the viewer could almost hear their exclamations and discussions one after another. This work is also unique in terms of color. Leonardo da Vinci mainly used simple and stable colors to create a solemn atmosphere. The colors of the characters' costumes are mostly earth, yellow, dark blue, brown, etc. These colors not only conform to the historical background and the identities of the characters at that time, but also coordinate with each other, forming a harmonious and unified overall aesthetic feeling. At the same time, Leonardo da Vinci skillfully used light to highlight key characters and plots. The natural light coming in from the window in the picture softly shines on Jesus and some of the disciples, illuminating the expressions and action details of their faces, making them more vivid and lifelike. The characters in the shadow part form a sharp contrast with the bright part, further enhancing the sense of hierarchy and three-dimensionality of the picture and adding a touch of mystery to the whole scene. Many details in the picture of this painting have profound symbolic meanings. For example, the bread and wine on the table symbolize the body and blood of Jesus, the upcoming suffering and redemption. The overturned salt cellar in front of Judas. In the cultural background at that time, salt was regarded as a symbol of purity and eternity. The overturning of the salt cellar implies that Judas' betrayal has broken the sacredness and purity. In addition, the gestures of the characters in the picture are not random. They either convey a certain emotion or have specific religious meanings, further enriching the connotation of the work. In this work, Leonardo da Vinci used perspective, lighting effects, and delicate character portrayals to create a strong sense of three-dimensionality in space, making the audience feel as if they were on the scene. Although Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were creating in different places at this time, their works both caused a huge sensation in the art world. People compared their works and discussed who had a higher artistic achievement, which further deepened the competitive relationship between the two. Leonardo da Vinci had a gentle personality and elegant demeanor, like the spring breeze, making people feel comfortable. He was full of curiosity about all things in the world and was a true Renaissance-style figure. In his notebooks, there were countless thoughts and sketches recorded, ranging from the principles of bird flight to human anatomical structures, covering multiple fields. His artistic style was delicate, soft, and focused on the depiction of details and the expression of emotions. Just like the mysterious smile of Mona Lisa, it seemed to hide endless secrets, making people unable to figure it out and triggering countless speculations and interpretations. He used the sfumato technique, making the color transitions in the picture natural and the outlines of the characters soft, as if covered by a thin veil, adding a mysterious atmosphere. These gentle and mysterious characteristics made him move freely in social occasions and establish good relationships with nobles and scholars. In sharp contrast to Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo had a hot, tempered, and stubborn personality, like a volcano that might erupt at any time. He had an almost harsh pursuit of art and was willing to do whatever it took to achieve the perfection in his heart. During creation, he often fell into a crazy working state, forgetting to eat and sleep and ignoring his physical health. His artistic style was magnificent, grand, full of power and tension. His sculpture works, such as David and Moses, seemed to be living beings breaking free from the stone. Every muscle and every expression of the characters was full of power. Take Moses as an example. Moses was sitting on a chair, his body slightly leaning forward. His hair and beard were curly and thick. His eyes were firm and majestic, and his right hand tightly held the stone tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments, as if defending the will of God. This kind of personality and artistic style made him stand out in the art world, but also often led to conflicts and confrontations when he got along with others. The huge differences in their personalities, like two rivers flowing in different directions, inevitably led to differences in their artistic viewpoints and creative methods. Against the background of competition, these differences were magnified infinitely, making their relationship complex and delicate. As the years passed, Leonardo da Vinci's body gradually weakened. He drifted around in Milan, Rome, and other places, but he never stopped exploring art and science. In 1516, he was invited by King Francis I of France to go to France. During his days in France, although he was highly respected, his longing for his hometown grew day by day. In 1519, Leonardo da Vinci passed away at the Château du Clos-Luz in France at the age of 67. His life was full of legendary colors, leaving behind countless precious artworks and research manuscripts. His artistic achievements and scientific ideas, like a lighthouse, illuminated the way forward for future generations and was hailed as the most perfect representative of the Renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci remained unmarried throughout his life, and there were no records of his love relationships or descendants. Some historians speculated that Leonardo da Vinci might be homosexual. He was reported for suspected homosexual behavior, records in Florence in 1476, but was not convicted due to insufficient evidence. This might also be one of the reasons why he chose to remain single. When Leonardo da Vinci died, he left most of his manuscripts, paintings, and tools to his assistant Francesco Melzi, rather than to his relatives. After completing the ceiling fresco of the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo continued to forge ahead on the path of art. He successively created works such as The Last Judgment for the Pope. These works still maintained his magnificent style, but also had innovations in themes and expression techniques. In The Last Judgment, he depicted the scene of Christ judging all beings when the end of the world comes. There are many characters in the picture, with different postures. Some are being judged, some are ascending to heaven, and some are being sent to hell. Through the exaggerated portrayal of the characters and the strong contrast of colors, Michelangelo created a shocking visual effect. He even painted himself into the work, appearing in the image of Saint Bartholomew, holding a peeled-off human skin in his hand, which implied the pain and struggle he experienced during the artistic creation process. Michelangelo's later life was relatively lonely. He devoted all his energy to artistic creation. His works were not only highly praised at that time, but also had a profound impact on later artists. Many artists drew inspiration from his works, learning his grasp of human anatomy and the pursuit of artistic expression. In 1564, Michelangelo passed away in Rome at the age of 89, ending his glorious and legendary life. Surprisingly, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci were consistent in this regard. He also never married and left no descendants. Records show that Michelangelo had deep friendships with some men, such as the poet Tommaso de Cavalieri. Michelangelo wrote many affectionate poems for Cavalieri, but historians still debate the nature of their relationship. Although Michelangelo was unmarried, he always cared deeply about his family, especially his brothers and nephews. He used his wealth to support the economic needs of his family and tried to improve the social status of his family. Perhaps some viewers are also interested in the wealth of the two. Who is richer among them, the painters of the world's most classic paintings? The answer is Michelangelo. He worked diligently throughout his life, and his works were mostly created on the condition of high-paying remuneration. He participated in many large-scale projects, was good at negotiating his salary, and was thrifty in his calculations, so he accumulated considerable wealth. When Michelangelo died, he left about 50,000 florin gold coins, equivalent to at least several $1 million today. Therefore, although he was withdrawn in personality and did not pursue luxury, he had strong wealth management skills. Leonardo da Vinci was not wealthy throughout his life. His income mainly came from court services, engineering projects, and artworks. He had worked for the Sforza family in Milan, King Francis I of France, and other nobles. Although he was widely popular, Leonardo da Vinci often procrastinated in completing large projects, resulting in the cancellation or reduction of a lot of his remuneration. In addition, His wide range of interests led him to spend a lot of time on scientific research and experiments, and his income was not maximized. When Leonardo da Vinci died, his wealth was far less than that of Michelangelo. The main assets he left to the world were his manuscripts, painting tools, and some real estate. The difference in their wealth is also related to their lifestyles and wealth management. Michelangelo had a relatively high income but lived a simple life and did not pursue expensive items. His main expenses were for family affairs. His frugality allowed him to accumulate more wealth. Leonardo da Vinci was not extravagant, but he had a higher pursuit of the quality of life, such as dressing elegantly. He also invested a lot of time and money in scientific experiments and mechanical inventions, but these studies rarely brought direct economic returns. Michelangelo had the long-term support of the Medici family, and the remuneration for many projects was generous, which further consolidated his economic position. Although Leonardo da Vinci maintained good relationships with many nobles and royal families, he was more dependent on the patronage of his patrons in terms of economy rather than on continuous income from his works. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were undoubtedly the most dazzling art stars during the Renaissance. However, at that time, there were also many other well-known artists who achieved brilliant success in different fields. After the death of the two masters, the leadership in art gradually shifted to other great artists, especially in the later period of the Renaissance and the subsequent Baroque period. Let's introduce some representative famous artists who were contemporaries of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Another most famous figure of the Renaissance is Raphael Sanzio, 1483 to 1520, who is listed as one of the three great masters of the Renaissance. His masterpieces are the famous The School of Athens and the Sistine Madonna. Raphael was the youngest among the three and was also an all-around and highly productive artist on a par with Michelangelo. He was renowned for his soft colors and harmonious compositions and was hailed as the master of harmony of the Renaissance. Raphael was already famous all over the world before Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci passed away. His early death was a great pity. If he could have lived longer, he might have become the absolute leader of the Renaissance. In addition to the three great masters of the Renaissance, there were several other masters who also had the potential to become the leaders of the Renaissance, and their works are also masterpieces handed down through generations. Perhaps because they did not belong to the Florentine school, their positions in historical evaluations have always been behind the three great masters of the Renaissance. Sandro Botticelli, 1445 to 1510, masterpieces Spring and the Birth of Venus. Botticelli was a representative figure of the early Renaissance and was known for his elegant and dreamy painting style. His works mainly focused on mythological and religious themes. Titian, 1488 to 1576, Titian was the leader of the Venetian school and was famous for his rich colors and bold compositions. He had a profound influence on the later Baroque art. Titian's works were well known for depicting nude figures, especially female nudes. He not only broke through many boundaries of artistic expression during the Renaissance, but also endowed nude paintings with a new aesthetic and spiritual connotation. Masterpieces include Venus of Urbino and Charles V on horseback. Another pioneer of the Venetian school was Giorgione, 1477 to 1510, who was good at expressing a mysterious atmosphere and natural scenery. Masterpieces, The Tempest and The Three Philosophers. In fact, there was also a renaissance of painting in Northern Europe. The representative figure was Albrecht Dürer, 1471 to 1528, who was famous for his exquisite engravings and natural and realistic paintings. Masterpieces, Praying Hands and Night, Death, and the Devil. In the late Renaissance, after the three great masters, the level of painting had reached a new height. Representative figures included Parmigianino, 1503 to 1540, and his masterpiece is The Madonna with the Long Neck. He was a pioneer of mannerism, and his artistic style tended to be exaggerated, elegant, and asymmetrical. Bronzino, 1503 to 1572, masterpiece, Eleonora of Toledo and Her Son. He was a representative painter of mannerism and was known for his delicate portraits and cold, toned colors. With the end of the Renaissance, the Baroque era of European painting arrived, which was an era of prosperity and luxury in art. The artists of the Baroque period inherited, and developed the traditions of the Renaissance. The representative figure of this era is the well-known Caravaggio, 1571 to 1610, and his masterpieces include The Calling of St. Matthew and David and Goliath. He was the founder of Baroque art. After the end of the Renaissance, he became the most influential artist and had a profound impact on the entire European art world. He was famous for his dramatic contrast of light and dark, i.e., chiaroscuro, and realism. Another master was Peter Paul Rubens, 1577 to 1640, a representative of Flanders, now in Belgium. Masterpieces include The Three Graces and The Allegory of War and Peace. Rubens was one of the most important painters of the Baroque period and was known for his dynamic compositions and plump figures. By this era, the tentacles of art had spread all over Europe. Diego Velázquez, 1599 to 1660, masterpieces Las Meninas and The Drinker. He was a representative figure of the Spanish Baroque period and was good at delicate figure depictions and lighting treatments. Rembrandt van Rijn, 1606 to 1669, masterpieces The Night Watch and The Man in the Golden Helmet. Rembrandt was a top-notch artist of the Dutch Golden Age and was famous for his portraits and religious themes. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo are the eternal twin stars of art in the history of the Renaissance. In their mutual competition, they constantly broke through themselves and created countless amazing art masterpieces. This competition, like a catalyst, promoted the vigorous development of art during the Renaissance, enabling it to reach an unprecedented height. Their works are not only treasures in the history of art, but also precious wealth of human civilization, inspiring generations of people to continuously explore and pursue the true meaning of art. Although Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo have left this world, their artistic achievements and spirits will never be forgotten. They are like two eternal stars, shining brightly in the long river of history, becoming an immortal legend in the history of human art. However, the inheritance of art has never been interrupted. Their successors include Raphael, Caravaggio, Rubens, Rembrandt, and others. These artists continued to promote the development of art in their respective eras, bringing more diverse and dramatic art styles. In each era, new leaders emerged, pushing art to new heights. Dear audience, thank you for watching today's content. I'm Lawrence, your navigator for the time, space journey. Learning from people can help us understand gains and losses, and learning from history can help us understand the rise and fall. Welcome to leave messages, like, and follow our channel. We will explore various historical issues with an orthodox and serious attitude to explore new directions for future development. Your encouragement is our greatest motivation. See you next time.